Hey everybody, welcome back to First Sip here at Elevated Beer, Wine, and Spirits. I'm Matt, this is Tom, and today we're going to be talking about newcomer to the Twin Cities beer scene, Modist Brewing in downtown Minneapolis, and we're going to be tasting their TOATS.
Yeah, Modist with an I, that's kind of ingrained in all that they do, doing things a little bit differently, seeing how they can shake things up.
Yeah, so Tom, we've got 4 beers in front of us here. Tell us about each one of these beers and about what we're going to be sampling today. TOATS.
You start off with Fresh. That's their lighter kind of tart wheat beer. Very refreshing, nice, light and zingy. TOATS, kind of the pale ale of the family. Good hoppy flavor. Over to Wasteland, the rye IPA, I'll call it. A lot of these beers color outside of the traditional style guidelines, but an IPA for your, what you're used to with rye and dank hops. And then finally, first call is a coffee lager, where it's not always an imperial stout that incorporates coffee. Here we have a lager, so you get a little bit more light crispness, kind of a lighter coffee, a cold press kind of type feeling.
One might call this a perfect brunch beer.
A
good beer for before noon. So Tom, you mentioned that Modist likes to do things differently, and I'm looking at sort of a different style of drinking vessel here, or pouring vessel. What is this?
Yeah, so you may have heard of a growler, 64-ounce glass bottle typically. This is the smaller cousin in a can, a crowler, can growler.
Nice.
It's really nice because a couple of things. Of course, the cans are light and mobile, go anywhere. Protects the beer from light. They actually CO2 purge these, so there's no oxidization that's happening. 750 mils on this, so a couple beers, a couple strong pours for you to, or 3 or 4 to share. So plenty of beer, but not too much, so you can kind of get some variety as well.
So you could potentially get all 4 and do a little tasting.
You could do your own tasting.
Just something to think about. So Tom, let's go ahead and dive into TOATS. Tell us a little bit about this beer, and we'll get our first sip and tell people what we think.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Modist does a little differently is actually from the perspective of their equipment. They have what's called a mash filter, and without getting too deep into that, it allows them to utilize different grain bills. So TOATS is over 50% oats. Typically you'll see 5 to 10% if a brewer chooses to use oats, and that's because of the brewing process, how they're able to utilize that specific grain. Modist is able to get around those hurdles, and it creates a nice crisp background for the hops on this. It's very hop forward. Good aroma, good citrusy hop flavor. So I think it's both a unique and interesting way of doing things, but it allows them to get certain flavor profiles that maybe you haven't seen before.
I'm glad we chose this beer just so that we could hear you say oats and totes in your Minnesota accent. I am getting a first sip of this, and the first word that comes to mind is just delicious. It's a very, very good beer. I was expecting, with the name like TOATS and knowing that there's oats in it, I was maybe expecting something a little darker, sweeter, maltier flavored, but lots of hops in this, and a nice big mouthfeel. When I take a drink of this, I feel like my mouth is just full of flavor. Because of that mouthfeel, I feel like I'm getting all of the flavor that the beer has to offer.
Yeah, with a lighter beer, sometimes that dissipates faster than you want to, kind of off your tongue, and just kind of like leaves you a little unsatisfied there. This definitely has some substance to it, but compared to your favorite pale ale, it's going to compare favorably there, especially if you like the hops, the citrusy hops. You got Citra, Bravo, Amarillo hops. Really enjoyable. I think it's going to be a new favorite for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's very sessionable at 4.8 ABV. And yeah, again, as I continue to sip it, I'm just kind of amazed by this beer, and the hop flavors are really coming through, but the amount of bitterness is pretty low. You're just getting a lot of hop flavors, some of those juicy, citrusy flavors. And again, at 38 IBUs, it's not too bitter.
Yeah, super fresh from the brewery. We're one of the only places that carry this, just because they're so new and so small. But the quality is absolutely there. So I mean, we're super excited to have this and spread the word about a great new brewery.
Yeah, so come on down to Elevated Beer, Wine, and Spirits, pick up some Modist beers. We have Wasteland, First Call, Fresh, and Totes, which we tasted today. Come see us in White Bear Lake. We also have a location in South Minneapolis. Cheers.